I'm Ali Abouzalam, cannabis industry CEO, coach, and MMA fighter. Catch me on the Jesse T Show.
Ali, welcome to the Jesse T Show, brother.
Jesse, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Man, what a great conversation we've had up until now, and a lot of similarities and synergies, man. And I'm excited to kind of hear more about your story and your journey, and for other people to do the same as well. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man. Ali Abouzalam, born and raised in Houston, Texas, to a Palestinian Muslim father and a Catholic Mexican mother. So I always like to tell people that my household was very spicy growing up, not only in the food, but the passion and the culture. So I'm kind of a spicy guy, got a lot of things going on with in the cannabis industry, in MMA, and also in the coaching world. Really been trying to strive to increase my connection with God and source, doing a lot more yoga and meditation, some things that we connected with on men's retreats, trying to empower my fellow brothers and be empowered by them, have a healthy balance of, ego, but also controlling the ego, and just super excited to be on the show, man. I've been following your IG page and some of what you've been doing, at least recently, and just think that there's a lot of contrast between your journey and mine. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, brother, I'm so excited to be connected with you and build our brotherhood and our connection, see where our journey leads in the future. I'm sure a lot of cool things can happen, but man, there's so much that we play in similar spaces on. And you just talked about something I mentioned the other day on a podcast where, the term savage monk came up. I referred to myself as a savage monk. And what that meant was, you talk about ego and working on ego and working on your higher self, and, being in alignment with your higher self, with your spirituality and your walk with God, universe, source, whatever it is, the people that look into that, is for them. And for me, it's something, it sounds like it's very similar for you. And I want you to speak to this, even though we're kind of jumping right off the gates here. Talk a little bit about what that means to you in terms of, being in MMA, being a business person, growing up the way that you did, but also having this spiritual side to you. Like, how does that all come together? And what does that mean for you?
Yeah. I'm still figuring it out, Jesse. I'm still on the journey. I'm still on the path. But I think a big thing, so I grew up with Islam and the Catholic Church in my life primarily. And from Islam, I learned a lot about self-discipline. Like true Muslims, you're supposed to pray 5 times a day. You fast during Ramadan. You always have God on your mind. And I used to draw a lot of references to like bodybuilding in Islam. One year I actually did a men's physique show in 2015, competed in that. And I was thinking of how like you have to eat your meals and you're always thinking about your training. And Islam's kind of the same way of always keeping like peace at the forefront, right? When you say the word salamu alaikum, it means like peace be upon you, brother, peace be upon you, sister. It's a very beautiful religion. It gets a bad rap, but it's a very beautiful religion. Every Ramadan, even though after college, I didn't observe during college, but after I graduated college, every Ramadan, even though I'm always like, I don't need to do it this year, I observe the month of Ramadan and fast, no food or water, or a lot of things, kissing your partner, getting aroused. You're basically living like a monk from sunrise to sunset. Yeah. This last year, it's during the lunar month. So this last year, it's like April, May. So you're talking like 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. No food, no water, no cursing, like monk mode for 30 days straight. So that discipline, that peace, and that part is living in solidarity with people who actually starve, who actually feel thirst and hunger on a daily basis. So I would say like Islam is a lot of peace. And same thing with the Catholic religion, peace, loving thy neighbor, even loving thy enemy, like Jesus says. And I think that's kind of like the lesson that I'm coming up with now, being an MMA fighter, is like loving thy enemy. So funny, quick story. My last MMA fight was actually, I'm an amateur right now, transitioning to become a professional. And it was my first opportunity to fight for an amateur title against another super tough guy. He flew out from Las Vegas to Florida to fight me for this title for a promotions called Impact Promotions. You guys can catch the fight on YouTube. You type in my name. And it was, I had noticed that even though when I'm training and sparring all the time, it's always like peace and that brotherhood feeling.
Oh yeah.
But I felt a lot of fear for this fight. This guy was definitely the most experienced and toughest opponent. And I went to like, I tried to go to like anger, you know, and I kind of went to like, I'm going to fuck this dude up, you know, kind of like went to this place trying to get myself hyped up. And I think what that resulted in for me was like kind of more anxiety and fear. So when I rewatch my fight, I'm like, I'm kind of spazzy. I'm not as focused. I'm not as clear.
You're not in the flow.
Not in the flow. Exactly. And that was a big lesson for me of now I'm kind of trying to juggle that of like that savage monk, right? Like, how do I bring this peace and appreciation and gratitude for my opponent, but also be game and ready to go once they lock up that cage,
Yes.
you know, like finding that balance. So I think I've had a lot of great foundational practices growing up with Islam, growing up with Catholicism. And now I have a really unique opportunity as an up and coming MMA fighter to be able to practice these things in like the very, very high stress situations. So yeah, it's been interesting with that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful contrast, right? You talk about religion and peace, and then you talk about, you know, MMA, and you talk about the goal is to outlast, outperform, outdo the man in front of you. And it's through physical contact. And at the same time, you can still have love in your heart for that person. I know it well. I mean, I've trained MMA for, you know, mostly Muay Thai kickboxing. And I'm a weirdo. I like it. Like, I like when I get punched in the face. I like the thrill of it. Like, I like everything. And it's, you know, I don't love getting really hit in the face hard, but enough to get me going. And it's like, okay, I need to step my game up a little bit and like cover up or move, slip, whatever it is I got to do. But like it gets me like tuned in. Like you said that you wanted to be more tuned in. But just going back to the thought and the overall idea of this is like, there's this, and I don't know if Bruce Lee said this, but it's always accompanied by a picture of Bruce Lee. And it says this beautiful quote, and I think it ties in perfectly to kind of where your mindset's at. It says, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
I love that one.
And just being prepared, being fit for service, being hard to kill. Tim Kennedy, an amazing MMA guy, current special forces operator. He's like the real Captain America. He's unbelievable. He always talks about being hard to kill. And not that you ever even need to use it. And I don't know if we've talked about this, but I remember growing up in Boston, I was bullied for years, physically got beat up a bunch. And it was just because I didn't have anyone really show me how to take care of myself. And I was afraid to hurt other people, really is what it was. And I let myself get my ass kicked for years, which made me tough physically, but it fucked with me emotionally and mentally. Once I started picking up MMA and I started learning how to defend myself, I learned what it was to get beat up when I was younger. So I didn't want to inflict that pain on other people unless it was absolutely necessary. And I could tell you, growing up in Boston, it's very like, it's very macho. It's very tough. It's kind of like people were always fighting. I used to get into fights when I didn't have the discipline or didn't know martial arts. And as soon as I picked up martial arts, I never got into a street fight again. So I don't know what this dynamic is. Have you ever experienced that before? Like, I don't know how you grew up, but like, is it safe to say that you only use your MMA in the cage?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same experience before really starting to train seriously. It was a lot more likely for me to get into some sort of altercation and feeling that I had this need to prove something. And I recently read something that really resonated with me well, because it's like you said, you sometimes kind of feel like a weirdo of like, yeah, I like getting punched in the face and I like this. And sometimes people are like, dude, like, how do you do that? Like, why would you want to get in a cage and fight someone? And I read this book by, his name is Sadhguru. He's an Indian mystic yogi guy.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Awesome. And he has this book. I actually got it for Christmas. It's called Karma. Nice. And I was reading it, and he was talking about how certain souls and people have a lot of like physical karma that they need to work through. And that when we don't use the body intensely in a physical way on a regular basis, we have this stored energy that can cause dis-ease in the body, disease.
Yes.
And it just resonated with me so strongly of like, oh, I feel like at this stage in my life, even though it's kind of funny, right? Because like you, I'm always trying to learn and connect and be more spiritual. And I feel sometimes like, all right, Ali, like this fighting thing, it's still kind of like your lower self ego thing. Like, why do you need to be doing this? Like, right. why are you spending so much time on that? But I feel that that's a part of, like, at least on my personal journey at the stage I'm at as a 30-year-old man right now, that I still have a lot of this like physical karma to work through. And some of these lessons are necessary for my growth. Like this lesson that I just had with my last opponent of like, I didn't feel like myself. Like,
Yes.
why am I trying to get all mad and angry for this fight to get myself there when I'm going to perform so much better when I'm focused, in flow, and frankly grateful for my opponent. Like, thank you for giving me this opportunity
Right.
to be a warrior, to step up and unleash my physicality to the best of my ability. You know, it's because of him that I get to do that. So I absolutely think that, you know, a lot of people that may call us martial artists weird may be able to appreciate that in a sense of like you said, when you practice this in a safe space at a dojo, at a martial arts gym, you're able to learn a lot about yourself. You know, you're going to learn a lot about yourself when you have to take off your shirt and get in a fist fight in a cage in front of a few hundred or a couple thousand people.
Yep. No question, man. And it's really true. It's like, and Tyson talked about this. I had a couple quotes that came out for me. The most recent one was Tyson was saying, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's how it always is. It's like, you have this plan and it's like, what do you do under fire? What do you do under pressure? And you really, for me, man, like when I picked up Muay Thai back in 2011, been doing it on and off ever since. And it's always, you know, it's always been something that's like called to me. It's been in my soul. I feel like I have a warrior spirit. Like I know I do, but it's also evolved. Like you said, I've become more spiritual and I don't have the ego need personally to like go out and like prove myself that way. I do it other ways now, but I do it for the love of it now. I just love it. It's fun. It's competitive. It keeps you in shape. It keeps you on your toes, keeps you thinking. It's one of the best places to do thinking because you got to think real time, like on the spot. You almost have to have like preception of like what's going to happen. Like you got to be like, watch people's feints. You got to move, you know, all the ins and outs. And like talking to people that fight, they know this, but like, it's really a thinking man's game more than it is just barbaric, and all the preparation that goes into it, the science of the training and the recovery and all these different things. But just to kind of back up to the other point that you made me think about, Jordan Peterson is one of the best thought leaders of our time. He talks about how a weak man is not a good man. A good man is a violent man who has it under control. It's like a really weird, again, it goes back to Bruce Lee's thing of being prepared, or Tim Kennedy's being hard to kill. It's like, you know, this day and age, we've been kind of attacked a little bit as a whole, right? And in terms of like toxic masculinity and being too aggressive. But there's a place and time for these things. And if you don't walk around with a chip on your shoulder trying to prove it at every instance, but you have the ability to protect you and your family and that which you care for, I mean, you're going to have a much better go at it than someone that couldn't, I feel.
And I think that's the key, what you just said there, Jesse, is being able to protect your family and friends and things that you care for, because that's what started that journey for me. So, you know, as a boy, unfortunately, I came from a little abuse in the household. There was a couple of times where my dad beat up my mom. And the first time I had ever seen that, I was too small to do anything. They were outside of the car. My little brother and I were in the car window. Maybe I was 4 or 5 years old. And I just remember banging on the window, yelling for my dad to stop, but he was hitting my mom, you know? And I just remember feeling so much just heartbroken, you know, that I couldn't do anything. And then when it had happened again, I was in the 5th grade, about 10 years old. And I remember him, they were in a big fight. My mom comes out of the room, busts out of the room, and he's sitting on the couch with my brother and I. She throws a shoe at him and it hits him right in the face. And I remember he just looks at us and says, "I'm sorry, kiddos," and just like chases after her to go beat her up. And I chase after him, and he's a big 6'2", 300-pound man. I'm a 10-year-old, you know, I don't know how much I weigh, but I was tiny. And I tried to pull him off and I couldn't. And it was after that fight that, like, you know, that's when they separated and got divorced and things like that. But I remember feeling just so powerless.
Yes.
And I never desired more than in that moment to be physically strong and capable of protecting those people that I love, and not able to kill, right? I don't want to stab my dad or shoot my dad or anything, but physically being able to do that. And it was because of that powerless experience that I wanted that kind of journey followed, right? Of course, there are so many other things. I love Bruce Lee. I love Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all the other things. It was out warrior spirit, like innate born in me. But that was a time where I was like, I need it, right? Like I need this strength. And through that, it helped me build my kind of like, just for myself, my worth and value as a man, of knowing like, okay, like I can hold my own, to help me find things like my voice, right? Once I became more confident in my physical abilities, then I'm like, okay, I can speak up a little more. I can do things. And I think that especially in today's world, we see so much about like toxic masculinity and so much things that tries to dilute the idea of being a strong masculine man. But I believe, Jesse, that in our world, it's so necessary, because you might need that base level martial arts or weightlifting or whatever it is as a man, so you can build the confidence for you to give your great speech, or your great message through voice, start your podcast, start your new business, whatever it is. And I think that we overlook some of these like primal, like I was even telling you, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, am I wasting my time just like fighting MMA fights? But I'm like, no, I love this. I need this. There's something about this deep to my soul that is developing me. And I hope that like being on podcasts like yours, putting out my content and sharing about my journey can help empower other men and women too, of like getting in touch with that side and looking at it through a lens of appreciation and beauty and the lessons that you can learn, instead of this egoic savage sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, no question, man. And I can tell you, you're displaying, whether you realize it or not, you're so I believe, and this is something that, I've studied for a long time and a lot of people speak to, but in the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and we all have divine feminine, divine masculine in all of us, women and men, combined have both. And even though we're talking about a very masculine thing, right, with MMA and like a combat sport, and having the ability to train and be in that environment, what you just displayed, even talking about the story about your dad and how he treated your mom and how that affected you and all that, that's vulnerability. But vulnerability equals courage, and that's a divine trait, brother. So you're already displaying, talking about MMA, but you're displaying a divine characteristic of divine feminism, and saying, hey, listen, this is what I experienced. I was hurt when I was younger. I did something about it, and this is what I want to carry into the future. And you're not carrying it in the mindset of, I'm going to hurt as many people as I can. You're in the mindset of, I'm going to evolve because of this. I'm going to learn. It's fun for me. I can learn from it. I'm making these beautiful, experiences happen. But at the end of the day, there's something that's from your soul that's calling to you, saying, hey, you need to do this for now. And whether you do it for the rest of your life, or you become a badass world champ in one of the big promotions, or maybe you turn around and be a teacher, or maybe you just do it for fun like I do. At the end of the day, there's something about it that's calling to you, and you're kind of following that path, which is admirable.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. It's definitely one of those things that has been calling to me, and slowly like taking more and more of my time, to where I'm like, you know what, it's time to become a professional. So that'll be a fun journey.
What is that process? Since we're talking about this, what has that process been like for you? When did you start fighting? What martial art did you pick up first, and how has it evolved since then to like where you are now?
Yeah, great question. So I started like seriously training in high school wrestling. I did like a few martial arts as a kid.
Base. Yeah.
So high school wrestling really got me going, and then jiu-jitsu. Trained in the gi at first, and I trained out of trials in Fort Collins, Colorado. And there's a lot of fighters there, amateur and pros, and they start getting
names up there with the pros.
So our biggest name right now, his name is Justin Gonzalez. He's in Bellator.
Okay.
He just had a huge fight against the number 6 at the time, Aaron Pico. Then we have Michael Stack. He's in LFA. So lots of guys that are kind of more up and coming. At this moment, there's nobody in the UFC at trials. But lots of guys always taking fights. So when I was training there, kind of as a newbie, I would go watch these guys and be like, damn, like, Mike that I was just training with yesterday just whooped this dude's ass. Like, this is cool. Just kind of being around the culture, and decided at first it was like, I want to do jiu-jitsu, just do a couple tournaments. I missed wrestling and doing that. Then it became, let's do some kickboxing. Let's do a kickboxing fight. Then it's like, you know what? I want to do MMA. Yeah. And just kind of setting these goals, hitting them. And then kind of seeing what's next, and it kind of evolved to where I'm at now.
When you were wrestling in high school, did you do all 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm assuming is it freestyle? I never wrestled in high school, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's such a great base. Any kind of ground game, any kind of clinch game that you can walk into martial arts with, you already get a leg up, because in the real world, most fights go to the street. Most fights go to the ground. And MMA, a lot of fights do as well, right? And so you got to have that base of whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, something where you're going to be in close with someone and be comfortable and know how to handle yourself, either get yourself into position or out of position if it's not good for you. But so as soon as you were going, like when you mentioned the wrestlers, and I was big into wrestling too in high school too. It's interesting how that works. Like, but my time, it was like The Rock and like Stone, because I just turned 40. So like The Rock, was really big. Stone Cold Steve Austin was, still pretty big, and like they had their battles epic, like huge, like for all time. But when
Yes.
you were going through high school, was it more the WWF WWE kind of thing, or were you into UFC at that point too?
By that point, I was into the UFC,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the UFC was just, getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's not like it is today, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you had your Forrest Griffin,
Oh
Anderson
yeah.
Silva, and yeah, that's when I was getting into it.
It's an unbelievable time that like that's like a lot of Hall of Famers came from that period. You get your GSPs, you got, like you said, Forrest Griffins, you got Anderson Silva, so many names to even mention, but that was such a stacked time frame. And that was like one of the more fun times I remember going through. And then you had guys like Brock Lesnar come in. He actually transferred and like from wrestling, which we know in terms of like WWE, WWF, that's like it's fake, even though it's hard on your body, it's scripted, where you get this 275 pound behemoth that actually wrestled up in Minnesota, and he was like 110-5 or some crazy record. So he actually had some chops, like he had some great chops. And then he goes into MMA and he crushes it, dude. It was incredible to see that. Yeah. Did you actually see any of his career when he was fighting?
I did. Yeah, he was a badass. And then, yeah, he fought that dude Shane Carwin with like the biggest hands in the world. Yeah, yeah. It was funny. It was fun to watch Brock Lesnar. I really enjoyed watching him.
So in all of this training and course correcting some trauma that you've experienced when you were younger because you saw what happened with your mom, and like you're like, never again, I'm gonna build myself into this person. A lot of mindset comes from that. A lot of work ethic comes from that. A lot of discipline. A lot of learning. A lot of like falling down on your face and getting up kind of thing, and resilience and competitive nature. And so, tell me how you transitioned all of that. Was that prior to starting business, or were you always an entrepreneur and that just coupled with it? How did that come together?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the mindset came from how I was brought up. I'm extremely grateful to have practiced, have been forced essentially to practice gratitude and give thanks all the time for everything. Because if we didn't have some sort of Muslim Arabic prayer for something, then there was a Mexican Spanish one. So literally, like before we ate food, Bismillah Rahman Rahim, like saying things, blessing the food. We would have our Spanish guardian angel prayer every time my mom would take my brother and I to school in the car. We would be like, fucking pissed in the morning, like 7 a.m., like, like, I don't want to recite this, after you eat, alhamdulillah, always giving thanks, always counting your blessings. And I took that really for granted until
we all do as kids. We don't know what we don't know,
Exactly. Until I became an adult and was like, man, I really need to give thanks, like for all of these things in my life. And I think like that has been one of the biggest things for me, Jesse, is taking daily action towards gratitude. I have a name for it, Dat Grat, daily action towards gratitude. And Dat Grat is something that I live my life by. It's actually my license plate, DATGRAT. And I always come back to gratitude whenever I'm feeling sad, low confidence, depressed, angry. It just coming back to counting my blessings, and that has really kept me grounded.
Yes.
And able to do things like starting my business and MMA. And to kind of circle back to the question, the business, that also kind of came from a very young age. My father was an entrepreneur. I had entrepreneurs in the family. I always knew I wanted to do that at a young age.
Okay.
Prayed for it, stayed grateful about things. And one opportunity kind of led to another to get me started in the cannabis industry, starting my company B Nails. And then this June is actually going to be our 7-year anniversary. So super grateful for that, because there's definitely been a lot of ups and downs and some scary times, but we're still here.
Yeah, hell yeah. Congrats, man. I know it's a hell of a road. It's a beautiful road, and it's such an amazing journey, but it's like anything else. It's not always easy, and especially with COVID, right? With this pandemic and 2 years of uncertainty. And, I was talking to a couple people in the last few weeks about it, business owners, and just saying, how was it for you? And it's kind of usually 50-50. It's like, it was really hard, and some business people got put out of business, and then some people like thrived. Right. And it could be circumstantial. It could be work ethic. It could be so many factors. You can't just put it in one thing. It could be, business sector, all that stuff. But for you, in terms of getting started in the CBD world, or was it cannabis, I should say, right? When you got started in the cannabis world, was this something that you were kind of just so to speak fell into, or were you already like an advocate for this, plant medicine? Like, how did you get into it? And then talk about your progression from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do when I got to college. I
No
was
one
just
does.
like, yeah, I was like, I know something in business, and I want to start my own business as soon as possible. So I got a job. I went to freshman orientation, and I went to Texas Tech University in West Texas, oil and gas capital of the
Yeah.
world over there. And they had a special program in the business school called energy commerce. And they're like, this is at orientation, they're like, this is the highest paying major. You negotiate oil and gas leases. It's very competitive. You need a 3.4 GPA to get in, all this stuff. I was like, dude, that's the one I need to do. So I went in that, and I became a petroleum landman, essentially, for those who don't know, pretty much doing all of the work that needs to be done before an oil company can go drill on a plot of land. So
Gotcha.
getting all the title right, negotiating the leases, all that kind of stuff. So I did that, and I was like, I can have a high paying job, save up as much as I can, then start a business. I don't know what it's going to be. And then I started seeing in the news that Colorado is the first state in the country to legalize marijuana. My best friend and I were like, dude, like, we got to do this. Like, we got to go to Colorado, fresh out of college,
Yeah.
didn't know shit. We were just like, we got to just get out there and somehow get in the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
So I
Was this
simply
coming
just
from a place of like thinking about like free weed for life, or like was this just like being a part of the rush, the gold rush?
both, definitely both, of like, we get to be a pioneer and like smoke weed, like, let's do it. So
Yeah.
I had no idea like how, but just like both of us set the back of our phone backgrounds to the Colorado mountains and just like figuring out. And the oil company I was working
Wait, so
for at
you
the
didn't
time,
talk about doing this at all? Like he had done it and you had done it with that, or did you do it intentionally together with the backgrounds on the phone?
we did that together
Okay.
after talking a lot about, did you see what happened in the news? I call this. Yeah, we need to find a way to get up there, blah, blah, blah.
Oh yeah.
So the company I was with at the time, they had a Denver office.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, like, let's just see if I can get up there. Like, that's step one. Like, let's move to Colorado,
Yes.
and like check out the scene. So funny, I'm bugging my CEO at the time about it, and I'm like, hey, you need a guy to get some Colorado deals. I'm your guy, like, da da da. And I'm bugging him. Finally, one day he's like, "Oh, you come to my office," and it was him and like the VP of the company in there. And I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" It's like, "You want to go? You want to go to Denver?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" He's like, "All right, we're gonna get you a plane. Go check it out. Find an apartment, whatever." I was like, "Holy shit!"
What year
like,
was this roughly? You remember?
This was 2015 or
Okay.
2014.
So really kind of at the cusp and the turn of like when this really started becoming like a big thing, and like now it's a monster. It's a $1 trillion industry, but before it was like just kind of just getting started.
Yeah, this is like when Colorado was the first legal, like,
Yes.
they had just legalized. So they were the first state for recreational. There was a medical was around for a bit, but
Yeah.
for recreational. So it was huge. It was news. So long story short, I end up getting up there, and like the first 6 to 9 months, I don't really do anything except I apply for a med card. I'm so busy with my regular work. But then I get a call, ironically, from an old high school wrestling teammate. And he's like, hey, dude, like, I haven't talked to you in high school. I saw you moved to Colorado. I know you're a business guy. I want your idea on a cannabis product.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, okay, like, what's the cannabis product? And he said, it's a way to dab without the torch. So real quick, for any listeners out there who aren't familiar with what dabbing is, I'm not talking about the dance move.
Yeah.
Dabbing is a slang term used to consume cannabis concentrates, aka hash. So the way that people still do it and have done it for a long time is actually heat the top of a water pipe, what's called a nail, with a butane blowtorch. So as you can imagine, you look like a crackhead.
Yeah.
It's a horrible look. When I had first seen it at Texas Tech, in my fraternity, there was a pledge who came up to me, fired up a torch. He's like, hey, Ali, you want to dab? And I was like, dude, fuck no, whatever that is. I don't want anything to do with that. Like, get away from me with that. And he said an analogy that always stuck with me, Jesse. He's like, dude, this is just weed, man. This is like the liquor of weed. When you smoke a pipe or a joint, it's like drinking a beer. This is just concentrated weed. Like, don't freak out. And I was like, as soon as someone figures out how to smoke that in a way where you don't look like a crackhead, that's going to be something. So fast forward back to me on the phone in Denver, I was like, dude, okay, I'm interested in checking out your product.
There you go.
And, invested like $800 for him. He used to build computers and stuff in high school. He's like, I can build a better electric nail, the primary product that he was talking about, an e-nail, better than the competition. Sure enough, he did. We bought the competitor product. I was like, dude, okay. So like,
Yes.
And I got laid off from my job, but I had a good amount of savings and I had maybe another potential opportunity, but I'd have to move back to Texas. But I was like, you know what? I'm not ready to leave Colorado. So I got maybe about 6 months of runway in my savings. So let's go all in on this business.
Shit.
And I did. And I was so scared. My parents were like, you're crazy. Everyone was like, you're crazy, right? I spent all this time getting this degree. I couldn't pay myself for 7 months, no income. All my savings went to zero. But finally, by month 8, we landed our first multi-chain dispensary client. And then started making just enough to pay like just our living expenses,
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's kind of what went down.
Wow. So just kind of the entrepreneur's journey, man. Had a calling in your soul. You had a hobby that you like to do, and it kind of came together. And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna check it out, and it turned out for the better. And so, what was that process like when you made that first? I guess you said you gave this guy $800. And he came back to you with a better version. Is that basically what it was? A better version of what the marketplace had to offer. To go from that, which, takes some guts, but, you kind of like, I'm just going to do this. And you're a little bit younger. So like, we're a lot more invincible, right? We're a lot more like, we could do anything. Fuck it. We got it.
Yeah.
To go from that first pen to now you're like, how many units are you still? So you're probably branched out past pens, right? Like, is it pens? Is it other things? Like, what is the company doing now?
Yeah. So now we have 3 different product lines, 2 portables, and the e-nail, the electric nail, is actually more of like a desktop setup that you plug into your wall and you attach it to a bong or water pipe.
Got it.
And that's like the at-home unit, the electric nail. So that's what we started with, was the at-home setup.
Okay, and to give people some perspective, whether it's the height of it or whether how many units combined between the 3 product lines do you move consistently versus coming up with the first idea with the first one? Like, are you doing hundreds or thousands of units? Like, how does this work?
Yeah. So that first year probably like a few hundred, and now in the thousands. So we've been around for 7 years. So we call our B-Nails colony our customer base, our colony. So the colony is over 20,000 strong over 7 years. And that's just only customers, so of course on like social media platforms and email lists and stuff, we've built a larger colony. And really now, Jesse, like at first our mission was revolutionizing the convenience of dabbing, right? Because there was people using these torches and we're like, okay, this is not going to help federal legalization. Like at first it was just making dabbing more convenient.
Yes.
And then like 3 to 4 years in, we kind of achieved that, right? We would go to trade shows, whether it was in Colorado or Oregon or Vegas. People would be like, dude, I've had my Gobi or my B-Nail for 2 years, 3 years. It's my favorite vaporizer. Like, this is how I dab. Okay, cool. And it was kind of like reaching the pinnacle of that mission. And me specifically being CEO out of my business partners and I feel like we need to be doing more, like impacting people in a bigger way, and just like instead of just making dabbing more convenient. Like we kind of
where
achieved
like the
that.
mission, like when it came, like it sounds like this is like kind of where the mission really kind of like took hold of you. And like, are you like, is there like lobbying going on? Is there stuff getting politics? Like where's all that for you?
Right. So we're not super involved in like lobbying and politics. We're a member of an organization called NCIA, just like we have a membership with them, National Cannabis Industry Association, and they do a great job of that. But 2 years ago, what we switched and we trademarked the slogan, be your best, BEE, your best.
Okay.
Because what I've learned throughout my 7 years in the cannabis industry is everybody who uses cannabis uses it for the intention of improving their life in some way.
Isn't that amazing?
Whether that's for chronic pain, anxiety, depression, or simply just to de-stress after a long day like you would with a glass of wine.
Yes.
Everyone uses this beautiful sacred plant to try and improve their life. However, just like anything, I have also seen dabbed out zombies walking around at events. I have seen people abuse it. I have personally had times where I've smoked way too much, maybe abuse it, maybe hit the munchies a little too hard, right? So some negative side effects from this.
Sure.
And our mission is really to empower cannabis consumers to be your best, to have intention when you're using cannabis, to have intention throughout your day. We actually just had our New Year Be Your Best challenge via email. It included a cold plunge on there and some things that you
Very
can,
cool.
choose to do with or without cannabis. We even talked about some strain pairings. There's certain strains that work very well for pre-workout. They give a very stimulating effects.
Oh, wow.
There's other strains that work extremely well for post-workout recovery, very soothing, body high. And especially with concentrates and extracts, where now we're getting cannabis technology to where we can extract the certain cannabinoid like THC or CBD.
Oh, yeah.
Those are cannabinoids compared to terpenes in the plant to have the specific effect that you want. So if Jesse wants to just laugh and he doesn't want the munchies, let's just get these profiles, right, and extract it in a concentrate. So it's a super exciting time. And just like any business, you have your ups and downs, right? There was a lot of times where I really questioned, like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, I'm just selling vaporizers and getting people high, having this type of mentality to switch it to where, like, no, I have an opportunity to empower people's lives and help them be their best and give them a device that they use as their daily driver to consume this beautiful medicine, so it's all perspective. And the road of entrepreneurship is, it's tough. It's a fight, it's ups and downs, but when you really get to impact other people's lives in a positive way, I think that's just a reminder of, like, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever industry, if you can be making a positive impact, helping people be their best, whatever that means to you, then you're doing a good thing.
I love it, brother. I love it. And it's being of service, right? You're being a calling to your higher self, being of value to others, your human brothers and sisters, and it's one of those things where you can see the value, like businesses metrics. And a lot of times it's way deeper than that, but like business people are concerned with metrics, sales and revenue and all these different things. And when you see that you've touched 20,000 people on an email list, or even more than that, beyond that, or you see people at conventions that are like, this is awesome, this is helping me do XYZ, it does give you that feel good, like you are doing some important work in the world. And it all started from this, hey, let's just go check it out. Let's have this great adventure. You got this business idea, you got this personal thing I'm into, like, and look where it's led you, like, just a few years later. So there's a whole piece to that plant medicine conversation that we could probably run this back and do a part 2 in the interest of time, because I'm really big into more of the psychedelic plant medicines and how they're becoming legalized and used in therapeutic settings, and how they've completely done wonders in my life and those that I know and care about. So we could definitely talk about that in round 2. But for now, let's jump into, I see this a lot on your Instagram, and I actually have the same book. I'm gonna grab it for you real quick. I think it's right around here. Oh shit, it wouldn't. Okay. Well, wherever I put it, it's the
Oh, dang! Nice.
Yeah, for those that are listening, it's the Project 369, the key to the universe, and how you can manifest anything through intention, which you mentioned. That's what really got me thinking about this. Intention is everything. Like intention with CBD, with cannabis, with psychedelic mushrooms or ayahuasca. Intention is everything. And anything that's a medicine, if you overdo it, can become, abused or a drug if you don't do it the right way, if you don't have the right intention. So this book's all about intention. It's all about manifesting. It's all about, and this is something the Instagram algorithm got me, and they know what I'm into. So they're like, oh yeah, just keep hitting me with ads.
Same.
it's like this, how do you create the life you desire? The significance of 369, which is a repetitive measure that you do throughout the day to really call into your life different things. And so when I saw you with this book, I was like, we got to talk about this. And I know you're big on mindset, which is hanging on my wall, and you're big on manifestation. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about where this mindset came for you, manifestation, and how's the book working for you?
I'm loving the book, man. I'm loving the book. It has you, as you know, has you talk about, you say 9 I am statements, right? Affirmations. And it really helps you see, like, what do you think about yourself? Like, what are you calling forth and stepping into on a daily basis? And then what are you affirming, right? What are you looking to bring into your life? But what I love about it even more is it asks you every day, what are you grateful for? Yes. It asks you every day, how are you feeling? And one of my favorite parts is it asks you how you're going to feel when you manifest what you're trying to manifest. And I love just like writing it down and really just feeling it and practicing it and like putting my hands in the air and closing my eyes and feeling into that. As far as like getting into affirmations, and manifestation, my journey started with in college with the book The Secret, The Law of Attraction, and Think and Grow Rich. Those were kind of two that kind of started my journey, and really like reading a lot of books that complemented a lot of the information in that. But it's been working great. I can tell you, I will say that the first thing that I tried to manifest, it was a huge lesson. So it was that title fight. So that was my first MMA loss.
Wow.
So I lost that fight by close decision. And it was interesting because I would write like, I am an MMA champion. I'm an MMA champion. And then I had my opponent, and I knew the promotion of that for my opponent. Then I would write, I'm an SEC, or Southeast Combat League. I am the SEC welterweight champion.
Yep.
So I wrote that for like 3 weeks straight. Then that opponent got injured. Then it was a new promotion. Then I was going to be fighting for Impact Promotions. So then for a little bit, I was like, I'm an MMA champion. Then I was like, I'm Impact Promotions MMA champion. And it didn't happen. So it was like, I had a day there, Jesse, where total transparency, I was kind of like, fuck this shit, man. Shit didn't work, like just kind of like just feeling down on myself.
Yes.
I lost. It was the first time I had lost an MMA fight. I'm 2-1 now, so my first two went well, and I won my kickboxing fight. So like 3-0 in combat sports, feeling super confident, and I had the taste of defeat. But let me tell you, I'm so grateful for it, because it helped me analyze a lot of things that I shared earlier of like, I was acting all mad. Yeah. I was doing these things that are not me. And I had read something recently that said, I think it was Sadhguru as well, and it said, you won't get what you really want until you be who you really are.
Yes.
And I was like, damn, I wasn't being who I really am. Like, that's not really me being, trying to be all mean and tough. And that was just what the front I was trying to put on, because I felt fear before the fight, right? Instead of just being focused, sharp. Doesn't mean I can't have a little snarl and stuff.
Sure.
But I learned.
Yeah.
Right. I learned a big lesson with that loss. So the affirmations, affirming some other things, and I can say it firsthand experience, and I'm sure you can. There have been plenty of things in my life that I did affirm. I mean, the B-Nails example, the phone on my background, right? That kind of stuff. But this Project 369, highly recommend it, because it takes it to a whole nother level.
Yes.
And it makes it a daily practice for you, to where it's not just affirming things, but it's really like affirming who you are and what type of impact you're going to make in this world.
No question. And what I've learned and what I've heard from so many people that are deep into this world, and people that are into science, they're into like metaphysics, they're into spirituality, they're into like gamut of things and gamut of backgrounds, is everything's energy and everything's frequency. And so when your frequency and your energy and your vibration match, that is what is supposed to be yours, or what you want in your life. It just kind of comes to you. Like, obviously you got to do the work. You can't just wake up every day, read The Secret, pray for stuff, and like not to put the work in. But when the work meets with the intention and the work meets with that vibration, it comes a lot faster. You can pull things. It's kind of like quantum reality and quantum physics. And I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I'm guessing you do. And Dr. Joe Dispenza is really, he's one of the thought leaders on this space, where if you can meditate or have intention or sit down and really call into your life that it is what you want, and you can put a feeling, like you eloquently described, you put a feeling to, let's say someone wants a new car and they sit there, I want this new Lamborghini, and whatever it is that they want. And they feel like they put themselves, even going as far as like going do a test drive, put yourself in the Lamborghini and like feel what it feels to feel like, and get that feeling. Once you put the feeling behind it, it's like your body kind of makes it second nature. And it's this weird thing, man. I've noticed since I was a kid, and I've said this since I was a kid, I was like, it's already done. It's just time has to catch up. Like, and it's just this weird thing that like no one taught me. Like I didn't hear it anywhere. I just kind of have this innate knowing. And like in my life, whenever I said that about stuff, it's always a foregone conclusion. Like, and it's not even, I can't even fake it either. I can't be like, yeah, that beach house, it's going to be mine. Like, it's got to be something that's got to be like, it's weird. It's this weird, like intuition. And like, I've been trying to hone it through the years, and like these types of things help. And what people need to realize is, for you that you've done a lot of different personal development work, and for myself as well, we are powerful beyond measure, brother. And we're not gods, I don't claim to be a god, but we do have a spark of the divine in us, and we have the universe inside of us. And so once we realize that we're that powerful, something like this just becomes like if you're familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's a whole nother conversation for the time, because I'm a huge fan of it. Thor, one of my favorite characters, had the hammer, and he's the god of thunder, right? And I don't, this isn't a spoiler alert, but for Thor Ragnarok years ago, the hammer god exploded, and he lost his way, and he lost his parents. He had this huge fucking hard time, and he goes and sees his dad his dad's in the afterlife or whatever, and his dad's like, he's like, what? Why do you need the hammer? He's like, you're not the god of hammers, you're the god of thunder. The hammer was just a way for you to channel your energy because you're a wild man and you couldn't have done it before. This is what this is. Like, we are Thor with the lightning. This is just the fucking hammer. So I love it. I love everything you're all about, man. I know we got to jump here in a couple of minutes. Is there anything else you want to like throw out there in terms of what you're looking forward to, what you're working on, anything? I know you got a trip coming up. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. Well, first of all, awesome analogy, dude. I'm going to, next time I grab that book, I'm going to be visualizing the hammer of Thor. So thanks for that. Yeah. Just, so thank you for that, brother. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. This has been a great conversation. And I just want to, let you, the listener, know that you are Thor, you know, like do what you got to do, whether it's some internal work, whether it's taking a martial arts class, whether it's a plant medicine journey, you know, listen to that intuition, take that next step. And what I'm really excited about is just this new era of humanity that we're entering into with COVID and all these other things. Yeah, there's a lot of scary things, but I think that we're going to just become more united and closer and more loving than ever before. I'm excited to do a retreat with you one day with some awesome fellow brothers. Yeah, just like how
it's
cool
already
it's
done. Time just has to catch up, brother.
That's right, brother. It's already done. So just really excited to continue to connect, meet, and expand with amazing people like you, the Jesse T community, and just continue to empower each other. You know, be that light. Be that person to start a conversation, be that first one to smile, and let's keep ascending.
I love it, brother. I'm right there with you. And anything I can do to be of service, be of support, have some fun with you, man. I'm along for the ride. But thank you so much. Let me be the first person from the audience to say thank you for being you. Thank you for the vulnerability and the courage of sharing your journey, sharing your story, the amazing insights that you've given us on kind of entrepreneurship and mindset and being a savage monk and all these beautiful things. I look forward to our next conversation, brother. Have a great time on your vacation, and we'll check y'all later.